Hey everybody. Um, my name is Amada Anderson. I am doing my post-op week 3 update since my gastric bypass surgery. Um, it's been a pretty crazy ride this past couple of weeks. Um, I had my surgery April 11th, and before my surgery, I lost about 31 pounds. And then I lost another 10 or 11 pounds after that, week 1. And in total, I think I've lost almost 50 pounds since the surgery. So that's like a total of actually 80 pounds lost since I started the pre-op diet. So if you're interested in any of all those videos and what I went through, you can totally go through my playlist that I started for my bariatric journey. But I've had some really huge things happen this week that are life altering, life changing. So let me just backtrack. So last week, or 2 weeks ago, I was about 14 days out, or no, I was like 11 days out from my surgery. I was walking, I was doing pretty good. And thought, well, if I can walk for at least an hour, then I'm probably fine enough to go to work. Wrong. I went to work, ended up almost passing out on 42nd Street and having to cancel a tour. It's pretty upsetting. That same Saturday that I got dizzy, um, I got a call from my mom that my dad wasn't doing so good, that his kidneys were shutting down. And this put me into a scare, and I thought, oh my God. And listening to other people's advice who've had the surgery or have gone through something similar where they're had some, a surgery that was so thick or big, I guess is the word. Everybody suggested that you need another 3 weeks off. And then I thought, well, if my dad's not doing so good, then that means that my mom has to drive from Auburndale to Tampa, and that's like an hour drive, and that's 2 hours a day that she's driving by herself going to visit my dad. So I told my husband, I think we need to go to Florida to help my mom out, and talk to the doctors and see what's going on with him. Well, we did that for about a week, and the following Thursday, Friday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we were there. People were saying that maybe he needs to go into hospice, that he wasn't getting better. And we really had to really start thinking about, what's going to happen with him, because he had lung cancer and he had surgery in February, and he basically um, came home after that, and then they were going to radiology and chemo appointments every week. And then he fell and broke his foot, which put him back in the hospital. But then something happened where he wasn't getting enough oxygen in his lungs, and so they ended up putting him in what they called the CCU, to watch him and take care of him. But then the doctors there were saying that his kidneys had shut down or something like that. So they had to put like this special mask on him to get oxygen in his system. And I think he was realizing that his body was shutting down, and um, he wanted to still see my nieces, and he wanted to see my brother Rick, and um, so we were telling people that Dad might not have very much longer. You need to come and see him, and we were right. Um, it was a very confusing situation because he had a lot of things going on. My sister and her husband and the girls came up to visit, and just to talk. They've talked to him on the phone. They came to visit, and the situation ended up taking a very bad turn for the worse because my dad's um, lungs were basically giving out, and they had to put a tube down his throat. And then they said, well, maybe we'll do a endoscopy to go with a camera down his throat, and they would knock him out just to see what was going on with the inflammation in his lungs. And but the problem was when they put him under, they really have to put you under because if he every time that they would like lighten up the morphine and stuff, he would start like shaking his head and like moving his arms, and so they had him strapped down and knocked out. So so that was on Saturday, and we went back to the hospital, and we thought that he was going to be able to be woken up out of that, but he ended up having further difficulties, and they said that it just wasn't looking good as far as curing what was going on with him, and it was just probably the best choice to put him in hospice or turn off the machines. And my mom and my sister and Rick and I, we all talked about it and thought that it would probably be better if we actually, went ahead and just turned off the machines. So it was really hard and really difficult to see that. So I lost my father. He died on May 1st, and there was a lot of people in the room. There was 20 of us. And there was a look of confusion on his face when they pulled the tube out, and he was still under. And we really tried to make it special. We played his favorite songs. We know that he's hard of hearing, so we put it next to his ears. And, I did see his eyebrows move and his lips move, kind of, because he really liked those songs. And it was just really difficult to see that, to see my dad pass away like that. At one point I actually had gotten up and walked out of the room because I didn't think I could handle it. And I'm glad that I actually did go back in the room because I don't know if I've mentioned this to any of you guys when you're watching these videos, but I'm very sensitive to energy and consider myself somewhat of an intuitive person, or a sensitive, or whatever you call them. Like I can pick up on spirits and things like that. And it was about 5:32, 5:34 when those last breaths were happening with his body, and I swear I felt him come and hug me and hold my mom's hand. I was sitting next to her. There was a brush of cold air, and I felt this very warm sensation, peaceful sensation come over me, and I just knew that he was passing, and I could feel him saying how sorry he was to my mom for all of the arguments and all the fights, and that he wishes, for forgiveness, and that he loves her and that he loves me, and was so thankful for everything. And oddly enough, even my brother-in-law, who was sitting on the other side of the room, had jumped up about the same time and said, "Did you feel that?" So that we felt his spirit move through the room, and shortly, about 4 or 5 more minutes after that, he passed away, and the doctor came in and called the time. And it was a very tragic, sad thing because, my mom and I were thinking and talking about it, and we were like, did we do the right thing? Should we have put him in hospice? Should he have suffered, and counted down his moments, even if it meant that we could say goodbye to him? And we all agreed that just wasn't it. That just probably wasn't the best way, because he didn't want to be on a machine. And so we did what we thought was the best choice. Now, on top of that, I'm 3 weeks post-op from my gastric bypass surgery. I've been into 1 week or 2 weeks of the pureed foods, which have included tuna salad, chicken salad, guacamole. I know it's not really the most, choice of vegetables to eat, but I'm Mexican. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm Mexican. And being here in Florida and being with my mom and my family, everybody eats guacamole. It's like a thing. Like at least every 3 days we have guacamole. So yay for having something squishy and wet for me to eat. Um, Mostly I've been eating refried beans or scrambled eggs or sticking to my chocolate protein shakes um, or chili. I've had chili with the beans because they're soft and chewy, and or like pieces of chicken, like diced chicken that I chew very, very, very slowly with some cheese on top, and it seems to all be going down pretty good compared to the very like compared to a week ago um, when I ate half of a scrambled egg and it felt like a huge Thanksgiving meal. So I think I'm progressing quite a bit, and I'm pretty happy about that. The other thing that I wanted to mention was that with my situation and the way that I've handled stress in the past, I might have mentioned this before in a video, but I'm not sure. Um, my go to stress mechanisms, which have been totally relevant since I've been here, almost everybody in my family drinks wine, beer, like it starts at noon and doesn't stop until 9 or 10 o'clock. This is what my family does. They're drinking all the time. And, um, and I sort of picked up on that lifestyle when I went to New York. So when I get stressed out, I want to drink. And then, but for me, it's not just like one or two drinks that, are spread out for 3 or 4 hours. It's like I need shots of whiskey or, I like to drink for the buzz. Like that's the whole point. And then, going to bed, I want to be able to eat. I get like munchies, so I eat something to make sure that I don't have a hangover in the morning. And that's usually been my go to stress mechanism. Well, guess what? I can't do that. I cannot do that now. There is no way I can do that now. I tried having a glass of wine, and all it did was give me Charlie horse cramps in my calves, and dehydration. And so I can't. Like, it's not even enjoyable for me to even consider trying to have a drink. And I can't eat that much. You know, so it's just really interesting. So I've sort of shifted in my brain, my coping mechanisms. On top of that, I've also just been dealing with the day-to-day stress of the situation with my dad and then the loss of my dad. And now the memorial service is tomorrow. And I wanted to write something to say, so I had to write a speech. I wanted to put together a video reel, and so my family was Sammy, James, Damon, my husband. The girls were all sending me pictures that they had, and we put together pictures, and then I went through and found some video clips of him and some home videos, and just trying to catch his spirit as much as I could have for him. And so I put together a video reel, and if you are a subscriber to my channel, then you probably noticed it, the memorial reel. So I've been dealing with that. And then the other thing, part of my surgery experience, and this is getting now into 14 minutes, by the way, so if you're still watching, God bless you. But all of my incisions have basically healed except for my belly button. And when I was at the hospital, going in and out of the truck to, at the VA hospital to see my dad, we were getting in and out. It's a big old truck and just having to, moving around and everything. My incision seems to be leaking just a little bit. It does every day, just a little bit. And apparently that's like a normal thing. But then all of a sudden I'm also having like severe like pin and needle type pain about 3 inches to the left of my belly button, and it makes it very, very difficult for me to bend over. So I haven't been very helpful in the sense of cleaning or standing for too long to do dishes or anything like that, you know. But luckily the girls are here, my nieces and my sister and James and Damon, and then we've gotten like visitors that have come to visit during this time, and they've stepped in to help do things. And so I'm just hoping that this is like the last of my issues surviving the gastric bypass, because I don't like pain. I really don't like it. It sucks. It hurts. And on to furthermore of my crazy, almost lifetime story experience I'm about to share with you. I was told by my father in the last couple of years, he's been a little on the storyteller Alzheimer's type experience, if that makes any sense. Like he'll just go into stories that from his past and things like that. And he mentioned to me, and he's told me this like I could swear when I was like 15 or 16, he's told me this, that I had apparently 2 sisters that live in Indiana somewhere, right? And I'd said, well, what's their names? And he's like, I don't know what their names are. And then he'd say, I don't remember the woman's name or whatever. And then the last couple of years, he's sort of like re-mentioned it a few more times. And so at this point, I'm like, so this must be like a really true thing. So now I'm going to backtrack again, because after my surgery and when that weekend, that Saturday, that first weekend that I was home, that Monday, sorry, I'm popping my knuckles, that I was home, I was catching up on some TV shows and I came across that TLC show, Long Lost Family Member, and I was watching it and I thought, maybe I should like sign up for the show and they can help me find my find my sisters and my, like, the information about my dad. So my dad had told me that he had to sign some sort of adoption papers. And so I thought, well, if he signed these adoption papers, then they have to be in a record somewhere. So after watching that show, little thought in my head was like, I should go to the city clerk's office online in Beech Grove and Indiana and Google my dad's name. So I spent like $20 to Google his name and find some records, his public records. Gave me the last 10 locations he lived, the last 10 phone numbers he had, 3 or 4 relative neighbors that were in that vicinity that might know who my dad is. There was a bunch of, and it said like relatives, and then it had my name, and it had my sister's name, and it had my brother Rick's name, and Rick's mom's name, and my mom's name, and then there was another woman's name on there, and I thought, well, that's really strange. Maybe that's the woman that he had this marriage, not marriage, but these kids with, and sure enough, she has daughters that were in their 40s, and I thought, maybe this is her. Maybe this is the woman he was talking about. But then I never took the next step because I wanted to talk to my dad about it. And so I told my mom, I think I found her. And so when she went to the hospital, when he was still on the oxygen mask, she asked him. And when I saw him in person, I also said, by the way, this is the people I found. Does this name sound familiar? And he goes, nope, I don't know who that woman is. And that doesn't sound familiar. So I was like, well, that's really strange. So I don't know why this woman is connected to my dad's public records. Maybe it's a mistake. I don't know. But I didn't do anything about it. I was just like, And honestly, I did see my therapist that week, and she mentioned to me, why did you decide to do that? And I said, I started crying, and I wasn't sure how to express what I was saying, but she basically was like, do you think it was like a way for you to try to like remember your dad and like maybe connect with him more, with this side of him that you didn't know? And I was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. So I think like somehow I just sort of knew that my dad didn't have much longer, and I really wanted to like get this information before he passed away. So flash forward to this morning. Um, my mom was looking for my dad's social security card so that after she gets the death certificate from the funeral office, then she can go to the social security office, because I don't know if you know, but when you're if your husband makes more money than you, which they usually do, and whatever you had in social security, then whoever's check is the biggest is the one that the wife or the widow gets to keep. So she needed his social security card, and then she needed her marriage certificate, and she has this tin box that she keeps all of these things in. Now, when I had told her last week that I was looking for my sister, my mom did say that she tried looking for the file, but she thought, oh, maybe dad filed it somewhere in his office. And she's like, if you ever come, come to visit, or if you come here, she's like, maybe we can look in there and look for it together. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, well, we'll look for it then. But then my dad passed away, and my mom was looking through to get her marriage certificate and his social security card, and she came across a bunch of other papers, and I was like, here's my brother Rick's birth certificate. Oh, here's my birth certificate. Oh, here's Kurt's birth certificate, my other brother who passed away in 2008. And then I got the brilliant idea of, I'm going to go on to Ancestry.com and like update my dad, to say that he's passed away. And then I thought, well, here's these not public records, but these records. And I thought maybe I'll take some photos of them and we'll upload them to Ancestry.com so that if we ever have kids or our children's grandchildren or whatever want to see these papers, we'll have them. So, so my husband and I were like taking pictures of everything. And then my mom came across an envelope and she said, oh dear. And she handed it to me. And sure enough, it was the adoption papers with my sister's names and the woman's name that he was with. So it wasn't the adoption papers, but it was a paper from the lawyer that stated alleged children. If you return this notarize this paper, then the new husband that the woman was seeing can adopt the kids, because my dad apparently is on the birth certificates. How did he not remember this? Because the way that the story he told me was basically that he had an affair with this woman for a couple of years when he was not quite divorced from his other wife, but like they were separated. And then when he met my mom, like he didn't want to be with that woman. He wanted to be with my mom. And like, even though he had 2 kids with this other woman, and then she met somebody else and she wanted to be separated from my dad. And like, so she tried to get like the paperwork all formalized and everything. Turns out that I found her name, this woman's name, and the kids. I went on and did some more of my background. This is like some background check Insta forms or whatever. And I found her. I found both my sisters, the woman, and their phone numbers and their email addresses. And unfortunately, one of my sister's names is Christina Dawn, and one of my sisters has already passed away 3 years ago. And she lived in Arizona, and she had cancer as well. But she didn't die of the cancer. I found out she actually had died of septic shock, which is pretty awful. And I'm really upset that I didn't get to know her. But the other sister is alive. And I actually found her on Facebook, and I reached out to her on Facebook and I also tried calling, but the number I had for her didn't work. Um, I also sent her an email and Christina, um, her husband, an email because I had their email addresses. I sent them an email and just said, "Hey, I'm the daughter of Robert Anderson. I think I'm your half sister, and he passed away. And there's this, memorial service happening on Friday, and um, just wanted to let you know who I am because I'd like to get to know you." And and then I had mentioned on Facebook just really quickly, I said, "This is my father's name," and then I said, "I think you're my half sister," and she got back to me right away and said, "Yes, you are." And we were basically talking like all afternoon, and I found out that she kept her last name, so her last name is still Anderson, um, because my dad never, I guess, officially sent the rest of that paperwork. Maybe it got lost in the mail. I don't know. Like, there's this letter that he was like, there's a letter that's, that he sent to her because it was like carbon copy for Robert Anderson. And in it, he was like, I wish you the best of luck with your marriage. I hope you find happiness like I did. Um, but according to my sister, their mom never actually received that letter or the notarized signed adoption papers. And so they never actually officially got adopted by the father. Um, and according to my sister Christina is on the death certificate. It still has my father's name as well. So yeah, we have 40 years of, well, 40 years for her and 30, almost 36 years of catching up for me. My mind is blown. And she looks like me, and so does my other sister, which is totally crazy. Um, so yeah, I don't know. This has been a pretty crazy week. Just thinking about all of this on top of the surgery, on top of my dad dying, on top of, oh my God, I have a whole nother family member. And then the sister that died, she also had a son. So I have a nephew somewhere in Arizona, and I'm just like in shock, really in shock. I'm so grateful and thankful that, we were able to connect on such a really horrible circumstance, Um, but it's pretty interesting. I can't make this up. I, I, I really, like, that's my theme for my life. I can't make this up. Even my husband was like, "I'm kind of jealous of your situation right now because this is so exciting." And I was like, "Why are you jealous? Like, you really, like, I don't even real, like, this is surreal." Like, we went to go pick up the poster. Damon and my husband made a poster for my dad so we could have it at the service tomorrow. And, and I basically was in the car with my brother Rick, who I hardly ever get to see, by the way, and his wife Nichelle in the back, and then Damon in the back, and then we're there, and the three of us are, the four of us are in the car, and then I'm talking to my half sister who I've never met on Facebook while we're driving, and just talking about my dad and talking about the situation, and just all in shock. I mean, just shock. There's a lot of holes that we're trying to put together. But regardless, I mean, what am I going to do? You can't change the past, and you can't change what we didn't know, and we can only just move forward. Like, I'm healing every day a little bit better, and I'm very excited about that. I'm trying to get my exercises in at least, like doing, started walking on the treadmill since I started feeling better. I did 20 minutes today and I did 30 minutes yesterday, and I'll probably do another 20 minutes tomorrow if I can manage and cope through it. I don't know. But tomorrow the service is going to be at 10 here in Auburndale. We're going to have his poster. We're going to put his hat and a 2-liter of Mountain Dew next to the urn. We have the video that's going to play when people are walking in, and a lot of country music because my dad loved Hank Williams and Alan Jackson. And so it's going to be sort of an uplifting type of experience. Totally thankful for so many people who have reached out and, and told us how my dad has moved them, or, was there for them or whatever. My brother Rick is going to sing a really beautiful song. I don't even remember what it's called now, but I think it was something with Dolly Parton and something about going home. I don't know. If we record it tomorrow, I'll share it. But my brother Rick has a beautiful voice. And I wrote a speech that I wanted to say. And we're going to have somebody from the church that my parents used to go to, a priest or somebody. And I think it's going to just be really beautiful. He's going to have a military send-off as well. And it's just going to be after that. And then we're all going to come here to the house and have enchiladas and margaritas. It's Cinco de Mayo. He loved margaritas. But this video is already over 30 minutes, and I got to get to bed. And I just want to say thank you very much for all of your support and your kind words. And, I'm happy to answer any questions that I have as far as gastric bypass or whatever. Feel free to put them in the comments and stuff below. Totally low energy video, but some exciting stuff on the horizon, and I really think that my dad's in a better place. I really do. So, anyways, thanks for watching, you guys. Really appreciate it.